Você sabia que Porto Alegre já conta com mais de 2,5 milhões de metros quadrados de áreas verdes em parques urbanos, sem contabilizarmos praças e áreas de preservação? Estes espaços têm importante valor ambiental, pois são responsáveis por termos temperaturas mais amenas, menos enchentes, redução da poluição do ar e abrigo à fauna silvestre, sem falar da importante função como espaços de lazer e convivência junto à natureza, em cidades onde cada vez mais pessoas moram em apartamentos. Em extensão, o maior parque da nossa cidade é o Marinha do Brasil, com área superior a 70 hectares. Já o mais antigo e mais conhecido é o Parque Farroupilha, ou, como é conhecido popularmente, a nossa querida Redenção. Qual destes parques de Porto Alegre você conhece?
Nas unhas eu queria um efeito holograma, sabe?
Moderna!
No cabelo eu quero um corte diva de cinema. E eu posso pagar com celular?
Claro! Não é uma beleza?
A Vera é como você, tem sempre solução pra tudo. Tem produto pra vender no balcão e onde seu cliente estiver. Tem aplicativo de gestão da Vera Store e atendimento via chat, WhatsApp ou em mais de 500 agências Banrisul. Vero, a solução completa pro seu negócio.
Bem cedinho, os Schneider encontram a Estrela e a Duquesa, que produzem um leite fresquinho e nutritivo que a Laurinha sempre encontra quando vai no Zafari. A novidade é que, de uns tempos pra cá, o maridão aprendeu a fazer panquecas maravilhosas. E mais, virou malabarista. A vida acontece quando você se encontra.
Olá, iniciamos neste momento mais uma transmissão da Feira do Livro de Porto Alegre 2021, uma realização da Câmara Rio-Grandense do Livro. Agradecemos a todos os patrocinadores, os apoiadores do nosso evento e damos as boas-vindas direto do estúdio da feira. Nesta edição, o evento será híbrido. No formato online, temos na programação geral lives diárias e você pode participar e enviar sua pergunta diretamente pelo canal do YouTube. Presencialmente, temos as bancas de livros e as sessões de autógrafos. Consulte a programação no site da feira, agende-se e visite a Praça da Alfândega.
Maristela is so loud, I can't hear you.
E nesta atividade, intitulada Universo Feminino com Humor e Leveza, falaremos sobre maturidade, vida adulta, luto, depressão pós-parto e outros temas. Conversarei com a escritora irlandesa Marian Keyes. Olá, Marian, bem-vinda à Feira do Livro de Porto Alegre.
Yes, I can. Thank you so much. Hi, Maristela. Hi, people in Brazil. Thank you so much for this tonight. I wish I could be with you in person. I was in Brazil 5 years ago, and honestly, the people that I met, you are so warm, so friendly, like so lovely. I think you're very similar to Irish people. In fact, we have a lot of Brazilians living here in Ireland, and you know, we get on really, really well. So it's a real pleasure and an honour and a delight to be talking to you here this evening. And soon, as soon as things are possible, I'll be back to see you in person.
Obrigada, Marian. A Marian Keyes, ela lançou o seu primeiro livro, Melancia, em 1995. Desde então já foram 15 romances e mais de 30 milhões de exemplares vendidos no mundo todo. Entre os seus livros mais conhecidos estão os 5 volumes estrelados pelas irmãs Walsh, o Melancia, com a Claire, o Férias, com a Rachel, Los Angeles, com a Maggie, Tem Alguém Aí, com a Ana, e Chá de Sumiço, com a Ellen. E esse talvez seja o segredo do sucesso da autora. As suas personagens são mulheres modernas, atuais, vivendo problemas e dramas muito parecidos com os nossos. E a minha primeira pergunta, Marian, tem a ver com isso. Como é que é o processo de criação das tuas heroínas? Em que você se inspira? Ou o que surge primeiro? A ideia de uma mulher com determinadas características ou o conflito que ela vai viver?
The character. I'm all about characterization. I like to write about women now, like in the contemporary world, in whatever is going on, like whatever is affecting us right now, and something has always happened to my characters, or is just about to happen, and it's usually something that's very relevant to the lives of women. But for me, the important thing is the main character, and slowly I build a life around her. I give her a job, a family, a history, her hopes, all the things that make a person unique. And I think, I'm slow. I take a long time to write my books, and I think it's because once the character becomes believable to me, I know that that people will care. The thing that for any writer that wants, well, as far as I can see, the thing that any writer wants is for your reader to keep reading. So if I work hard enough to make my character believable to you, then I've done my job right. And things happen. And I very much write about relationships, relationships not just with a lover, but with family, with friends, with people you work with. I think all relationships are challenging. I think, one of the very difficult things about being alive is trying to manage relationships and keep them smooth, friction-free. So there's usually a very big cast of characters in my books. And I love that. It's what I like in life. I like lots of people around me. And I think when I go into my books, I recreate that kind of feeling of there's people everywhere. And even though I may not love them all, or even though they can annoy me, I still like a life full of people. So that's kind of my process.
Certo. Mário, você falou que gosta de criar personagens que as leitoras se identifiquem. Você costuma ter muito retorno de pessoas que leram seus livros, mulheres especialmente, que dizem, mas aquela personagem sou eu vivi aquela situação. Existe isso?
Yeah, I have. And it is such an honor when people say that, or when they say, I had those exact thoughts. I thought that I was the only person to think that way. And I felt a lot of relief reading your books. And for me, I feel like I've done my job. And different books have affected people differently. Like in Rachel's Holiday, she goes through rehab. She's addicted to drugs and doesn't realize it because she's middle class. She still has a job. She still has an apartment. And obviously not everybody is going to have that experience. Addiction is, it's not completely rare, but it's not something that most people live with. So with books like that, it's less rare for people to identify. But those who do say, it helped me get sober, or it helped me understand my drug-addicted parent or my drug-addicted ex. So as well as people kind of identifying, I suppose I would also like to shed a light on parts of the human condition that we may not experience ourselves, and to do it in a compassionate way, and also to do it always with some sort of humor, compassionate humor, because I think a great way of selling unpleasant truths is to do it with a little bit of humor. And it's so funny. I've been doing this for like 27 years. And that was the way I started writing my first book. Something horrible has happened. I'm using humor to tell it. And that has never really changed. I'm stuck in my lane, and that's okay. Like, I like my lane. I'm really happy that I'm allowed to write this way, and that people will publish it, and that people will read it. So thank you.
Como você estava falando, você usa muito o humor nos seus livros, mas para tratar temas pesados como a própria dependência química, o luto que aparece no Tem Alguém Aí, o medo da morte, no Agora Eu Nunca, a depressão pós-parto, no Melancia. São temas tabus. como é que foi a primeira reação das pessoas quando você começou a fazer isso? E como é que é para chegar a esse equilíbrio entre o humor e o tema mais sério? Como é que você faz isso funcionar tão bem?
Thank you. I think it's a very Irish thing. We use humor as a survival mechanism. And certainly the home I was brought up in, my mother is an amazing storyteller. And it was just done in our house. You had to be a good storyteller. And humor was always used when things were terrible. Because I think in any situation you have a choice. You know, you can laugh or you can cry. And I would prefer to laugh. So, I mean, it's something that feels very comfortable to me. It's very, very natural. And the thing was, when I wrote my first book, I was so clueless. You know, I had no idea what it was like to be published. And I had been through rehab for alcoholism about 18 months before my first book came out. Like, my life changed very quickly and very much for the better. And when I was talking about who I was, you know, in the interviews and stuff that I had to do, and I mentioned that I was an alcoholic in recovery, there were very mixed feelings. Like, a lot of people went kind of, you know, you mustn't talk about this. Oh my God, no. Like, alcoholism, dirty secret, never mention it. You know, don't ever speak about it, especially an alcoholic woman, like, worse. And then other people said, oh my God, this is so refreshing. Like, thank you for talking about something that happens to a lot of us. And that just doesn't kind of that isn't mainstream. So, and, you know, and I've kind of done that with all my books, like with depression. Like, I mean, that kind of, for me, went hand in hand with my alcoholism. And I have, it just, you know, I never had a plan that I would write about taboo things, but they're what interest me. I really feel secrets fester. You know, nothing good happens in secrecy. And the thing was, like, for me, I have always kind of felt a lot of shame, but I didn't feel shame about suffering from depression or being an alcoholic. I just thought, you know, that's what life gave me, you know, and I never thought that either of them were a moral failing. So I was very comfortable talking about them. And as I said, I didn't set out to kind of, you know, open up taboo subjects for conversation, but people received it quite well. Some of them, you know, the ones that weren't telling me, shut up, shut up, shut up. The ones that were kind of open to hearing it were really glad to hear it. And I think, you know, there has been a shift in those almost 3 decades where it's just more acceptable to talk about feeling not so good, or, you know, to talking about maybe you do have a problem with whatever. And, like, I'm glad. I suppose I want my books to be about something meaningful. You know, I want to write about women, and I want to write about women in a patriarchal world. But every book has to have something meaningful going on for my character. And I suppose most meaningful things are difficult. And I'm really happy to have kind of, I don't know, made it easier to talk, I hope.
Certo. Você falou que a sua experiência de depressão, de alcoolismo, serviu um pouco para construir seus primeiros personagens. Existe algum livro que seja mais pessoal, assim, que tenha mais da Marian no livro?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, everybody assumes that Rachel's Holiday is my most autobiographical because it is about a woman who goes through rehab, you know, and she goes in complete denial, as I did. And she comes out 6 weeks later, not in denial, and I suppose very angry and full of grief, and also excited about the future. But I'm not Rachel, and her life wasn't mine. I I'm trying to think. Anna Walsh. I mean, of the 5 Walsh sisters, I think Anna is the one that's kind of closest to the personality of me. You know, she's. I don't like arguments. I don't like having to tell people unpleasant things. I really, I just want everybody to be happy all the time. You know, I am very codependent, and I think that's Anna. So I think she and I are alike. Also, there's a character called Lola Daly in, I don't know what the book is called in Brazil, but it's about a politician. He's an abusive man, and there are 3 women. You know, their stories are around him, and Lola Daly is the first one. And again, she's similar to me. I mean, all my characters are channeled through me, so they're all going to pick up bits of me. But I think as time has gone on, my characters have become less of me, really. And I think that's probably a good thing. You know, it means that I'm working harder to, you know, to be imaginative, like to try and bring people who are nothing like me into my books. Maristela, do you have an opinion on which character should be is most similar to me?
Olha, Marian, eu não sei. Eu imagino, eu noto que tem. Eu não conheço, não te conheço pessoalmente, mas o que eu noto, assim, acho que, como se dissesse, cada personagem tem um pouquinho do seu criador sempre. Eu acho que deve ter um pouquinho de Marian em cada uma delas. E só o livro que você falou recém da Lola, aí no Brasil ele ganhou o título de Cheio de Charme. Já que você falou de qual personagem tem a Marian e a mamãe Walsh e a família, toda essa dinâmica da família Walsh, ela tem um pouquinho da tua família também, ou das famílias irlandesas em geral? Como é que é isso?
Totally. I mean, there are 5 Walsh sisters, and in the family I come from, there are 5 of us, not all sisters, but 5 siblings. And absolutely, the dynamic of the Walshes is the dynamic of the Keyes. We are so close. We are so enmeshed in each other's lives. And I mean, it's probably not healthy, and I don't care. Like, I love being around them. We squabble, we disagree, we are there for each other, we tell brutal truths. I mean, like, I live 10 minutes walk from my mother, 5 minutes walk from one of my brothers, 5 minutes walk from another brother, and 20 minutes drive from one sister. Now, the other sister lives in New York, which is 3,000 miles away. And, you know, she probably left to escape the enmeshment, but she doesn't escape because, like, you know, we ring her all the time, and, you know, we have the family WhatsApp group, and we're always sending like her cute videos of like the nieces and the nephews and everything. And and like other things, like my poor mother is very, very devout, you know, very devout Catholic, just like Mammy Walsh. And my poor mother cannot cook like Mammy Walsh. You know, and my mother, when the happiest day of her life was the day she got a microwave, because it meant that she could stop pretending to cook. You know, and the second happiest day of her life was when she got the upright freezer. So like she could fill it with frozen foods. And anytime any of us came in and said we were hungry, you know, she would point us to the freezer and then to the microwave. And like, you know, my work here is done. So yeah, there are like similarities. And like, yeah, my poor dad is dead now. He died 3 years ago. And but it's funny, I've written another Walsh book. And in the Walsh book, Daddy Walsh is still alive. And I can't tell you how lovely that was for me. It felt like he was still alive. And my sister, the sister who lives in Dublin, was reading the book, because I get my sisters to read my books, you know, just for feedback and stuff. And she was like, oh my God, Dad is still alive. So definitely that feeling of a very loving enmeshed family with big personalities, lots of people with big opinions. That's my family. And it's something that I really love writing about. 2 books ago, it was called The Break in English. I created a new family, and it's another huge one. Like, it's crazy. Like, I didn't have to create all those characters, but it would have felt very empty and bare if Amy, the woman in it, had like one sibling. It's like, my God, that's embarrassing, especially for Irish people. We need lots of people to make a family.
Certo. E você, além da sua família, você costuma observar outras pessoas, as pessoas com quem você convive no dia a dia, e pensar, tal característica seria interessante colocar num livro, ou uma história que lhe contam uma amiga lhe conta de um problema que ela viveu, de um problema amoroso, ou de um problema do trabalho, ou de autoestima. Você aproveita essas coisinhas da vida real também, de outras pessoas ao seu redor, para colocar nas histórias?
Okay, from a really young age, I felt out of step with other people. I never felt comfortable. I always felt wrong, like kind of wrongness was my core emotion for years. And I would watch other people just in the moment, living their lives. And I never knew what the right thing to do was or the right thing to say. So like from a really young age, I was watching other people, wondering, how do they do it? And I thought, if I watch them and if I copy them, maybe I'll be able to feel normal. So I was already watching people as a way of, functioning, of trying to live life. And that was always there. It was a painful place to be. And I wasn't paying attention because I thought I'm going to write books in 20 years' time. I was paying attention in order to move through life undetected. But it meant that habit, which I began very young, never, ever left me. And it still never leaves me. And I am really interested in people, in their psyche, in their internal dynamics, at how they function, about the things that they utilize in themselves, about the lies they tell themselves, about, the happinesses they have. So I'm still watching other people all the time. And I know that sounds creepy. I don't mean it to be creepy. And when I'm watching other people, I'm not thinking, oh, I see. She doesn't like her sister, but she's pretending she does. It's not like that. It's not as conscious as that. I hear other writers say that they sit in coffee shops and, earwig on other people's conversations. Again, just for me, it's a little bit, I don't like it. But on some level, I am taking notes. The funny thing is that when people tell me stories about their lives, and, I hear something, I think, oh, God, that's fantastic. That is such a ridiculously, shockingly terrible, hard to believe story. I'm going to put that in a book. I think if I try, it doesn't work. There's something, real life doesn't translate to fiction, not directly, because real life doesn't fit into the, fiction, everything is smoother. Real life is far more unpredictable and kind of hard to make sense of. So often I have been excited about a friend's story of something good or terrible, and I've asked them if I can use it, and almost never, it never works. I think most writers, we take in, so much information, and then it's got to get processed. It processes itself, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, and it will emerge in a different way from the way it went in. And all of my characters are made up. like genuinely. Like, I think it would be incredibly cruel to put a real person in a book. I just think it would be like a real abuse of power. But I think, yeah, when you've been paying attention and you have so many different traits from so many different people, it is possible to assemble people that actually convince. But like I've often said, it's like getting ready before you go out at night. You know, like I try on different traits with each person, and or different memories or different hopes, or, you know, different parts of their lives. And sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. And, you know, I go down a lot of dead ends and have to lose stuff. It's like, you know, you put on your earrings and then you put on your bracelets. Yeah, but the bracelets don't go with the earrings, so something has to go. It's that process of trial and error. And then at some stage, if I work hard enough for long enough, it becomes real. You know, something happens and it just kind of blossoms. But it's work, and hopefully not creepy work.
Marian, eu estava relendo alguns dos seus livros e eu fiquei com a impressão de que a idade das personagens ela vem aumentando ao longo do tempo. Nos seus primeiros livros, elas tinham entre 20, 30 e poucos anos, e depois veio mais perto dos 40, e agora no Adultos, elas estão na faixa dos 50 anos, chegando aos 50. Isso aconteceu de uma forma natural ou foi planejado dos personagens irem acompanhando a idade dos leitores, que provavelmente vão ficando mais velhos?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a plan, but when I began writing, okay, I was a little bit older than my characters, but I wanted to write about what I saw around me, you know, what I was experiencing and what I was experiencing, you know, what women my age were experiencing, because I was only interested in me, really. But as I've got older, obviously my focus has shifted, my interests have changed. And, you know, I'm different. You know, I'm 58 now, you know, so I'm menopausal. You know, my dad has died. You know, I have a pain in my knee that never goes away. I can't really wear high heels anymore, which kind of breaks my heart. You know, so all of those things, you know, and things that I said would never happen to me. I said, like, you know, bury me in my high heels, you know, please, in my coffin, please, you know, I want my stilettos. Now I think, yeah, you know, comfort is more important. But, you know, when I was 30, I thought, no way, I am never giving up, never. I've given up and it's fine. So definitely, I mean, my characters aren't always me, but my concerns have changed. Yeah, and in Grown-Ups, I suppose what I really liked about Grown-Ups was that we had 3 women, you know, from 30 to 50. And it was nice. I liked writing it. It was nice to kind of represent, I mean, Nell, who is 30, is so different to Jessie, who is, you know, they're not only like, they're not just, Jessie isn't just older, but like philosophically, they're different. I mean, Nell is genuinely worried about the planet. Jessie is prepared to make the right noises, but doesn't actually believe it will ever impact her. Yeah, I think maybe as I've got older, I've got better at doing more ages. Definitely wisdom comes with age, some wisdom. But yeah, sometimes people get upset and they say, but I want to read about the women in their 20s. But I don't want to write about them because, not entire novels, because I suppose I don't feel like I have the right, really. Yeah, that's it. You know, I don't feel that belongs to me anymore. And I, you know, I'm very interested in writing about women my age and a little bit younger, because I thought, you know, 58 was, you know, practically dead. And like, I don't feel like that now that I am 58. I feel there is so much living to be done. There is so much to experience. You know, I have so many thoughts. I have so many passions. I keep falling in love with people, like women, men, children, whatever. Like I'm really happy to be alive, and I feel probably more alive now than I did when I was 25. So definitely the ages of my characters got older as I got older, because that was what interested me, writing about them.
Certo. Ainda, Mário, sobre o Adultos, que acaba de ser lançado agora em novembro aqui no Brasil, você falou que ele tem 3 mulheres como personagens, mas ele traz também uma mudança, porque nós temos também um homem que é, de certa forma, protagonista, que é o Johnny. Como é que foi essa mudança? Você é conhecida por escrever, por ter heroínas, por ter mulheres fortes ou problemáticas, mas como é que agora escrever também sob o ponto de vista de um homem? Como é que foi essa experiência?
It was wonderful. In my earlier books, men were either good or terrible. There wasn't really any room in between. And I have so much to say about this, I suppose I would start from the point that I think sexism makes life really hard for women and also really hard for men. I think men are given a very rigid framework to fit their lives into. They're told, you must be really successful. You must be really good at your job. You must earn so much money. You must earn more money than the woman in your life, and you are responsible for the well-being of your family. Also, you must never, never display fear or weakness or vulnerability or sorrow. And that's really, really hard. It's really hard to live like that. And I mean, obviously, sexism has made life so difficult for women for centuries. But, it has become clear to me in recent years that men also suffer. So when I wrote, it's Adultos, isn't it, in Brazil? When I wrote it, I wanted to bring that compassion. I suppose, Johnny is the most important man in the book, but there are actually 4 main characters. There's Johnny, there's Ed, there's Liam, and there's Ferdia. And, of the 7 main characters, 4 of them are men. And it was really interesting to write their internal landscape. The messages that society has given them and how they manage to process their feelings with those messages. All 4 men have done it differently. Like Ed, who is Johnny's brother, is the most healthy of the 4 of them because he isn't afraid to be vulnerable. And I suppose the other thing about Ed is, and it's something that I'm aware of for all of us, is that capitalism, late stage capitalism, has made life horrific for most people, and especially men, because they are told, your worth comes from earning money. Again, Ed is the healthy one because Ed is a botanist. Ed has stepped away from that arena. Like, he doesn't care. He is not interested in money. And that makes him very, very powerful because there is no way to shame him and there is no way to frighten him. Ferdia, who's the youngest at 22, he is looking at the world in a much more doom laden way. To him, he sees global warming, he sees how brutal the job market is, with 0 hours contracts, with kind of no security. And his attitude to life is very much formed from that. So I've made this a very long and a very serious answer. But I loved writing them. And I loved writing them in their shades of grey. Like, I love Johnny, you know, because he's so good on the outside at being Mr. Macho, you know, Mr. Good at his job, Mr. Charming, Mr. Confident. But in himself, he feels like his father never approved of him. He feels like he's a failure because his wife earns more money than him. He feels like a failure because his best friend who died was a much better man than him. And I loved him. But honestly, in that book, I loved them all except for one person. If you've read the book, you'll know who it was. But yeah, it was lovely to do. And I mean, I really hope that I bring that more nuanced approach to writing about men to future novels, where men are allowed to be emotionally vulnerable and to articulate that they are more than a money-producing machine. I'm really sorry if that was too dark or too long. I apologize. Disculpo. Is that the word?
Sim, não, sem problema, Marian. Além dessa questão de trazer os homens mais em tons de cinza, como você falou, nem necessariamente bons ou maus, esse livro também, a parte mais cômica da história, é que já na primeira cena, uma personagem, ela, num jantar de família, ela começa a contar segredos de todo mundo. Da anfitriã, do marido da anfitriã, de todo mundo ali, que está ali. E tem essa questão dos segredos do passado, eles são um tema, de certa forma, recorrente nos teus livros. No Agora ou Nunca, por exemplo, nós tínhamos uma personagem que era toda certinha e tudo, mas que ela tinha um trauma lá de quando ela tinha 19 anos, ela estava com mais de 30 e ainda guardava aquilo ali. E em quase todos os livros tem isso. Seria porque todos nós temos um segredo, alguma coisa do passado que define a nossa vida, tem a ver com isso ou não?
Yeah, I mean, I think most human beings have something in them that they are very ashamed of, that they feel that they alone are the only person that can know that. I mean, it can be big, it can be very, very small. And I mean, I find secrets very, very destructive. I mean, personally, you know, I don't do well when I feel ashamed. You know, I need to tell somebody. Yeah, but most of us are, you know, we're human. We make mistakes. We do things that we don't always approve of. You know, we do things that are not congruent with our values. And definitely, I think in a situation like in this book, where it's a big family, it's a messy family, but they live very much in each other's lives. There are two levels in a situation like that. You know, there's the surface level where everybody is fine. We're fine. We're fine. You know, everybody is nice. Everybody gets on. Everyone is polite and friendly. And then there is underneath. And underneath is always much more complicated, much more interesting. You know, people are feeling dislike for these people, or people like other people far too much. You know, well, with all human beings, you see, I love that about us, the fact that we present one version of ourselves to the world, and it's just a tiny part of us. But get behind the screen, and that's where the real stuff is. And it is huge and passionate and intense. And so, yeah, secrets. I mean, they're a great device for telling stories. It's funny, I never really thought of myself as a writer of secrets, but yeah. I mean, I think most of us have one thing, at least one, where we think, please God, I don't want anyone ever to know this. I would die if people knew. And we don't have to feel like that. I'm going to say something to you. I don't know if it will translate, but I'll try. There's a thing that I say to myself. And okay, it's forgive yourself for all the ways you hurt yourself when all you were doing was trying to survive. You know, I find that very helpful with the things that I do that I am ashamed of. And I mean, I'm human. I do lots of stuff. But I try and make it okay as quickly as possible. That's how I can kind of, you know, live in the world. But yeah, I didn't know that I wrote so much about secrets, but yeah, you're right. You are right.
Marian, tem uma pergunta que chegou aqui de uma leitora tua, chamada Renata Petengil. Ela diz que em Adultos, as personagens elas parecem ter uma coisa em comum, uma carência emocional, uma falta de amor, ou do amor de outras pessoas, ou até mesmo do amor próprio que você estava falando. É isso que as torna disfuncionais?
Oh, I mean, that is such, Renata, that's an amazing observation. I mean, definitely, like the three brothers, Johnny, Ed, and Liam, they grew up with parents who, the parents were just focused on each other. Like, they should never have had children, you know, and in fact, like Ed even notices that. You know, the three boys were sort of, you know, an interference. And then Jessie grew up, she was an only child to, you know, elderly parents. And they were loving. I mean, they were loving, but they kind of didn't equip her for life in the real world. And like Jessie learned that her only worth really was in being useful. And then Ferdia, who I love, his dad died. You know, when he was like under 10. And then his mother married his dad's best friend. And that was really hard for him. Then, I mean, Cara had loving parents, but Cara just couldn't do it for herself, you know? And I think, for me in the book, like Nell is the most emotionally healthy person. You know, Nell comes from lovely parents, and Nell, you know, Nell is very moral. Like she's very, very, you know, she has a very strong philosophy about how she wants to live. But Nell finds life very hard. Life is very hard. You know, she designs theatre sets, you know, and she gets married to Liam basically because she's bored. You know, she's waiting for life to start. And, you know, she's working really hard. And, you know, she's living in a shared house, like miles from everywhere. And, you know, so I don't think Nell is without love, but I think her life is so hard that she reacts as a person would if they had no love. But yeah, thank you. That's an amazing question. And thank you very much, Renata.
Marian, quando eu divulguei que eu ia conversar contigo aqui na Feira do Livro, várias amigas me escreveram pedindo para perguntar sobre uma possível volta das irmãs Walsh. Eu sei que a Rachel está voltando agora em fevereiro, né? Queria ver se você pode nos adiantar um pouquinho do que as leitoras vão encontrar no Again Rachel.
Oh, thank you, Maristela, for asking that. I am so excited and so happy to have written this book. I'm just at the very end of doing my proofreading at the moment. I have to have it in by Monday. Okay, Rachel is now living in Ireland, and she is working as an addictions counsellor in the place where she got sober, or when she got clean. Back in 1998. And I've set the book in 2018 because of the pandemic terribleness. You know, I didn't want to have to explain that. I didn't have to kind of, you know, work around it. So they're all in it, everyone. All of the sisters, all of their men, Mammy Walsh, Daddy Walsh, let me see, Rachel has a dog now called Crunchy. Let me see, what else can I tell you? Bridget is in it. Bridget got married to an Irishman and she lives in the west of Ireland now. And okay, this is the thing, right? When you write a sequel, when we last saw Rachel, we had the happy ending. But when you write a sequel, you can't just pick up at the happy ending and keep happy ending all the way through. Something has to happen. So I'm really sorry that I can't really tell you too much, but in Again, Rachel, there is a lovely man and there is another lovely man. And that's all I can tell you. I'm so sorry. I just want people to read it and it'll be okay. It'll be okay. I promise you it'll be okay. Because I think the thing that you probably know about me now is that, like, I can't not write a happy ending. There's a happy ending. It'll all be okay. I promise. Trust me.
Certo, estamos eu e todos os teus leitores e leitoras curiosas. E isso leva para uma outra pergunta. Se a Rachel está voltando, a Claire e as outras irmãs vão voltar também? Tem essa possibilidade? Em novos livros só delas?
Maybe. Okay, let me tell you. I've never written a sequel before this. I didn't believe in them. Just a personal thing. I just felt when I got to the end of the book, my character had gone through enough. It was enough. You know, I just wanted them to kind of go free and be happy in some imaginary place. Because when you revisit a book, something bad has to happen. Because there is no book without the something bad. You know, that's the unpleasant truth of it. So, I don't know, 6 years ago, I tried to write a sequel to Melancia, to Claire and Adam. And I spent about 6 months working on it. And I had to stop. It was too painful. I mean, I know that sounds ridiculous, but it was. You know, they were happy. They were good. I didn't want to, you know, I had a plan for them. And I had to abandon it. And then I wrote an entirely separate book about the same issue called The Break, but it had nothing to do with the Walshes. But I had to reread all of the Walsh books before I rewrote Again, Rachel. And I'm very interested in Helen. Maybe Helen might be the next one. I don't know. I mean, it's funny because I don't get to decide. I know that sounds like mystical kind of creative stuff, but I don't. The plot for Again, Rachel came to me. It had nothing to do with me. You know, I didn't sit down with my head and decide, what am I going to write about now? Like, the idea came from nowhere. And I thought, okay, it's here. I trust it. And I will try. And, you know, I went into it thinking I could fail with this. You know, I could fail and have to abandon it, or I could write it all and fail. And still I thought I will try it. And I mean, I don't think I failed. Although, you know, I mean, everyone is going to have their own reaction to it. But I don't know if I could write about any of the others. I don't know it in my head. My gut will tell me if that makes any sense. But I can say right now that Helen has me interested. And you know, you catch up with all the sisters in Again, Rachel. So you'll see where they're all at in their lives. And when you see where Helen is at, you might think, okay, I'm interested too. I hope.
Falando em novidades, há poucos dias você anunciou que vai gravar um podcast na BBC com a Tara Flynn, Now You're Asking. Já tem data e você pode adiantar um pouquinho como é que vai ser esse podcast?
Yes, thank you for asking. Yeah, it's me and my very good friend Tara Flynn, who is a really wonderful comedian. It's going to be a problem podcast, but hopefully people will write in with light-hearted problems as well as genuinely heartfelt ones. So we're actually recording the first block of them this coming week. And And it's the most beautiful thing. It's just me and Tara and the producer, Steve. It's just the three of us. And, you know, sometimes in your life, something happens and you meet somebody and it is just gorgeous and you love them and you love the work you do together. And you just can't understand why the universe gave you this amazing thing. That's what it's like with me and Tara and Steve. We just get each other. And, you know, it's a gentle show, you know, and like Tara is incredibly compassionate and she's very wise. She's also very funny. And that, you know, we hope to provide wisdom and hope. And I think the thing that I find most helpful in my life is to know that I'm not alone. That we will also identify with whatever is coming into us. But like, if anybody wants to write, it's Marian and Tara at bbc.co.uk. And it can be about anything, big or small. You know, the person that you work with keeps taking your coffee cup, you know, something like that. We have opinions on everything. And they will be coming out in February, which is around the same time as Again, Rachel. And yeah, it's just been one of those beautiful things that I'm so grateful for. And thank you for asking, Maristela, about it.
Marian, chegou aqui uma pergunta de uma outra leitora tua, a Jéssica Correia, da São Leopoldo, uma cidade vizinha aqui. Ela é grande fã tua, ela também escreve Tiquilite. E falando sobre o Alguém de Rachel, ela diz para você não partir o coração dela e revelar se o Luke Costello está ou não está no livro.
Luke is in the book, Jessica. I will not break your heart. Trust me, trust me, trust me. It's okay.
A Maria já está se encaminhando aqui para os minutos finais, então queria que você fizesse suas últimas colocações, o que mais que você pode contar para a gente, se despedir aqui do público da Feira do Livro.
Let me see. Okay, the BBC television, there is an arts show called Imagine, and they do documentaries. They're very, very prestigious documentaries, you know, about writers, artists, dancers, and they've done one with me. And my family are in it, my husband is in it, my sisters, my mother, everybody is in it. So I am so proud of that. And that will also be out probably in January or February. But mostly, just thank you so much. I have such love for Brazil and the beautiful, warm, friendly people. Thank you for the love that you show my books, and especially like the Walsh books. Thank you for having me to your beautiful festival. Like, I really, really wish, you know, when the invitation came, you know, my first thought was, oh my God, they're inviting me to Brazil again. And then I thought, hold on, no, there's a pandemic. No, of course not. But still, it's lovely to be with you virtually. But I would really, really love to be with you in real life. Thank you, all of you who have tuned in and watched. Thank you, Maristela, for your beautiful questions. And thank you, Renata and Jessica, for yours. Thank you, Lewis, for your patient and excellent translating. The whole thing has been such a pleasure. And obrigada from my heart. Thank you so much.
A gente é que agradece, Marian, muito obrigada pela tua participação aqui na Feira do Livro, em meu nome, em nome da organização da feira. Obrigada também ao pessoal que mandou perguntas. Infelizmente, eu não consegui fazer todas aqui, porque o nosso tempo está se esgotando. Mas eu convido vocês, então, a seguir acompanhando a nossa programação online e até segunda-feira, dia 15, visitar também as bancas dos livreiros na Praça da Alfândega e participar das sessões de autógrafo da Feira do Livro de Porto Alegre 2021. Agradecemos a audiência e até o próximo evento.